Continues on Woodbury County's new law enforcement center, delayed 7 months by work that was not included in the building's original plans. During its meeting this afternoon, members of the Law Enforcement Center Authority said corrective work continues in the sheriff's office space, court space, and medical observation space. As recently as November 20th, intake and jail administration areas are awaiting alterations before they're complete. During their meeting, the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors voiced their frustrations with having created the LEC Authority, but not having much oversight of the project aside from financial backing.
As far as oversight and the fact that they're two separate legal entities is a state law issue, and unfortunately it's designed for projects that work. It doesn't really, in my opinion, contemplate projects that have a year or two of delays, massive cost to the taxpayer, use of federal funds.
Right now, the new LEC is slated to open in April, 7 months later than its original September 14th opening date. KTIV has requested records related to the delay in construction of the new law enforcement center. Now, that request through the Freedom of Information Act sparked a discussion at tonight's County Board of Supervisors meeting. Chairman Matthew Ung put an item on the agenda to discuss best practices regarding open records request. Ung also wanted to talk about how the county can improve its communication or the implementation of Chapter 22, which is a section of state code dealing with the examination of public records. Supervisors oversee the funding for the LEC Authority. KTIV has asked supervisors to pay an estimated $3,000 bill for the records requested from the LEC Authority. But Ung worries if supervisors paid the bill for the records, it would lead to a, quote, slippery slope for future requests.
The law did change recently to, pass on less cost to the requesters and have local governments take on more of those costs. But beyond that, you have to be fair and equitable with requesters. You can't, we were told today from our county attorney's office, you can't really help someone even if you believe it's in the best interest of the information. That would open up a door that would just be kind of problematic.
The time period KTIV requested records is from May 31st, 2023 to the date the LEC Authority produces the records.